Hey there, it's Shauna. I hope you're doing great. Welcome to your weekly astrology forecast for September 25th. So this week I'm calling, if you can dream it, you can do it. Because this week there's a lot of inspiration that can come up, and then there's also this call to balance that out with practicality and doing the work that we need to do in order to move towards our ideal vision. So I'm excited to share the astrology of the week with you, and then I have 3 tips for you to have an amazing week. So there's a lot of transits this week, and I'm going to break this down for you in a broad, general way, and then if you want more details, you want to get into the nitty-gritty, you can listen to the podcast that I co-host. So first aspect is that we have Mercury and Venus making a T-square with Saturn and Neptune. And so this is a broader, what we would call a loose aspect in astrology. So it's not exact, but it's still something that is influencing us this week. So let's break it down a little bit. So Mercury is squaring Saturn. Mercury is our mind, it's our thought process, it is what we are consciously aware of. Saturn is practicality. Saturn asks us to be responsible for ourselves, to do the adulting things that we need to do, and to have patience, to do things one step at a time. So that's one piece. It's very practical, very like a call for diligence and devotion towards what it is that you're working on. The other piece of this is that we have Venus opposite Neptune. So Venus is our heart. It's what we're drawn towards. Venus is like, has this alluring kind of quality. It's like, it's romantic in that way. And then Neptune also has this fantasy kind of romantic, but very inspiring feeling. And Neptune, it spiritualizes things, it inspires us, and it can also, the shadow side of Neptune can also be fear or disillusionment, or seeing things with like rose-colored glasses, like seeing things the way you want to see them versus how they actually are. So these are 2 very different energies, right? One is practical and diligent and focused on like facts. And then the other one, Venus to Neptune, is like, let's, relax and have fun and daydream. So what I want for you is to balance out these energies, because when there's an aspect like this, we can possibly swing from one extreme to the other, which is not super pleasant. So I would find a way where you can balance connecting with what it is that inspires you, but then taking the practical steps to engage with what it is that you need to do in order to move towards that, or just even in order to like take care of yourself. Like this is a good week to focus on very practical self-care kind of things. Like, are you feeding yourself well? Are you taking care of your body? Are you getting the downtime that you need? All of those things. So that's that. The other aspect that's happening this week is we have Jupiter opposite Uranus. And so this brings reinvention and also a lot of inspiration. This aspect really, to me, it embodies that word even of inspiration. The roots of the word inspiration are to fill something with life, to fill something with breath. And so like that is, it's an aspect that's been building over the last few weeks. So it may feel like very exciting. You may feel like inspired to create something even, or just have a lot of really cool ideas. So make sure that if that is coming up for you, that you honor that and that you document that and write things down. Especially because Uranus can bring insight that's like a lightning bolt, and it comes, and then if you don't catch it, it goes away. So that's that. And then if all of that wasn't enough, we have Mars trining Pluto shortly after Pluto stations direct this week. So this is about honest action. Pluto asks us to be ruthlessly honest with ourselves and with others, but mostly with ourselves. And then Mars is about assertiveness, it's about action, it's about doing, and Mars calls for bravery. So this is a tricky thing because when Pluto is around, there are unconscious patterns that can be activated or triggers that can come up. And so I just want you to watch for that, and I'll have more information for that, how to do that on the tips in just a moment. But it's really important whenever Pluto is around with this aspect to be honest about how it is that you actually feel about something, and to avoid dismissing your feelings because they're not convenient. Because when Pluto is around, those feelings will continue to come up until you realize them, and they will get stronger and stronger until it is that you realize them. The thing with Pluto is that truth isn't just about words. It's not just about saying something that is true. It's about like true authenticity, which is when your unconscious and your conscious line up. And I know that it's, in a way, it's impossible for all of us to be completely aligned in that way, because if we were conscious of our unconscious, we wouldn't have any unconscious, and it would be like, I don't know, we might go crazy if that happened. So what I want you to know, though, is that it's important to listen to your little gut feelings that you have. So for example, you meet someone and you get like a weird vibe from them. There's nothing they've done wrong. You're like, I don't like this person for some reason, but everyone else likes them. And so you're like, well, I should, I'm being like judgmental. I shouldn't feel this way. And so you kind of like stuff down that feeling. That's not good, because there's a reason why you feel like a weird feeling around this person. It could just be that they're not a good influence on you personally. Another example is that if you feel angry at someone and you feel like you shouldn't feel angry, keyword here is shouldn't. So with this transit with Mars and Pluto, especially because Mars and Pluto can show us where there's a potential for anger that needs to come up, that's healthy for it to come up, so that we can engage in healthy conflict. So if you feel anger towards someone, but you feel bad about it, you're going to keep it inside, and it's going to kind of like fester in there in your heart. And then that becomes resentment and guilt, which will eventually come out in some way or another. So it's often more healthy and pleasant to allow that to come out when you're actually feeling it, versus trying to stuff it in there. Because it will come out at some point. And so it's better if you choose to engage in that way. So that's that. So I want to share with you some tips for this week. So tip number 1 is to engage literally with your dreams. I want you to record your dreams this week. So this is important because, especially when Neptune and Pluto are active, it taps into our unconscious mind, and our unconscious mind speaks to us through our dreams, symbolically through our dreams. So if you don't dream, you're like, Shauna, I don't dream. I want you to try this. Just set a notepad and a pen next to your bed and like intend that you will remember your dreams. You'd be surprised. It happens. Even if you just remember like a little tiny detail or just like a subtle feeling, write it down right when you wake up, because I notice for myself, sometimes I'll write something down where it's just like a little tidbit, and I'm like, I shouldn't even bother with writing that down. But when I'm writing, I actually remember a lot more. And it's usually a very insightful dream in that way. So tip number 2 is I want you to write down practically, what are your dreams right now? Like, what is it that you want to accomplish or to achieve, either in the coming weeks or the rest of this year? What is it that you're working with? Write that down. And then tip number 3, I want to read you a quote before I give you tip number 3. So this is from Marianne Woodman's book, Dancing in the Flames, The Dark Goddess and the Transformation of Consciousness. Oh my gosh, that sounds intense, right? Even the cover has flames. Marianne Woodman is amazing. She's a psychotherapist, and she does a lot of really deep work, especially with women's consciousness. So this, she says, "The voice knows where the treasure is hidden. Out of the darkness will come the treasures and the hidden riches. This is the darkness we have always feared. Beyond the mature persona of the ego lies the child's imagination, which fears being devoured by the wolf or the wicked witch. If we remain trapped in fear, we will never know the treasures of the dark. And so I love this so much because it speaks to our need to go into our unconscious, to go into our psyche, and to really, like, especially when she talks about the darkness, she's talking about the things that we don't want to acknowledge about ourselves. And I find that it's really easy to use spiritual concepts and to relate to people when we're like feeling good about ourselves and we're feeling good about the way that we feel. But when we're angry or we feel guilt or resentment, it's kind of like it's harder to work through those things. Or even if we feel a sense of responsibility or a sense of duty and we don't want to feel that, it's hard to work through that. And so that's the darkness. And there's actually, like she says, there's a lot of gifts that we can receive when we go into that instead of ignoring it because it's not convenient. Tip number 3, I want you to write down what your challenges are, especially related to what it is that's your dream right now. What is it that you're working on or going towards? And the other piece of this is, how can you engage with these obstacles? How can you engage in a way where you're taking responsibility and you're taking authority for yourself? Because whenever Pluto, like all of these really, Saturn, Neptune, and Pluto, whenever those planets are active, it's really important that we take responsibility for ourselves. And I know that that means that we can't always control everything, and there are some things that are absolutely out of our control. But the more that we can do to take little tiny actions to feel like we have a sense of power, the more that creates, that like builds inside of us, and it creates like this snowball effect to where at some point we're like, oh, like I got this and I can do this, and it makes life more manageable when things are outside of our control. So I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, please share it with a friend. And then if you want to get more into these themes, you want to get those nitty-gritty details, you can listen to the podcast that I co-host with my friend Mel of Energetic Principles. The podcast is called The Feminine Principle, Astrology for Authentic Living. And I'll have a link down below for the iTunes and the Podbean link so you can listen to that. And then if you want to get a personal vibe for this on yourself, you can get a reading with me. So I'm offering regular standard readings, but then also if you just want to text me a question, I'm offering that as well. So best way to connect with me with that is to send me an email for pricing. I'll have that below as well. So until next week, I'm sending you lots of love and wishing you an amazing week. Namaste.